Kasey Catlett is the director of the Office of Diversity, Ethics, and Inclusion at College of the Holy Cross in Worcester. He helps the administration address calls for more resources, services, visibility, and access for marginalized communities on campus.
I identify as a queer individual, as a gay man, and decided that I wanted to get involved in something around that, and joined some student organizations. I was a part of the LGBTQ Program Advisory Board at the University of Oklahoma, and then from there just kind of grew into a graduate assistant position when I was a graduate student, and then into a full-time role all the way to an associate director at the University of Oklahoma's Gender Inequality Center.
Catlett is very aware of his privilege despite, or maybe because of, his marginalized experiences as a young gay man. He emphasized that while he does represent progress simply in his ability to reach the point he has in his education and career, there are still so many whose progress is blocked for their LGBTQIA+ identities, especially when they intersect with racial and class dynamics.
I will say I carry an immense amount of privilege. So even though I identify as a gay man, I am also white. I come from a higher socioeconomic background. So my experience, I did experience some discrimination growing up. But not to the extent that, when we talk about intersectionality, students of color, queer students of color experience at a much higher level. So generally speaking, I could navigate the institution fairly unscathed. There really weren't any policies or procedures that were obstacles for me that would have been different for other people. But I did experience, obviously some areas of discrimination from faculty members. Sometimes they were unintentional, so microaggressions to intentional.
Microaggressions committed against him in his undergrad years affirmed what he was seeing on a national scale and drove him to get involved. He shared one instance of a French professor unwittingly changing all the pronouns from male to female in a love letter Catlett had written, thinking he'd made a mistake. When Catlett approached the professor and told them he was gay, the professor turned red with shame and gave Catlett the grade he deserved.
It's still something that it's a reminder of that being straight and being cisgender is a norm, and sometimes people have to be kind of shaken out of that. And even though I don't have any ill will towards this person, it's still something that is a reminder that you're not part of the norm in society.
Many hail Massachusetts as a vanguard in the struggle for LGBTQIA+ rights and representation. It was one of the first states to legalize gay marriage and is a leading hub for transgender-specific medical services and procedures. Working in the state for the past 6 months, however, has reaffirmed Catlett's understanding of Massachusetts as an imperfect benchmark.
It would be easy for me to say on paper how great Massachusetts is, and agreed, yes. Massachusetts in a lot of ways is, best practices benchmark for a lot of other states. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that it's perfect. It's easy to look at, area like Worcester or Boston, suburbs of those areas, and how progressive and inclusive they are. But you get into more rural areas, and even in larger cities, there are still those pockets where discrimination can manifest.
While much has been done to improve the daily lives and workplace protections LGBTQIA+ people enjoy, glaring problems remain in academic and educational spaces. Kids questioning their gender identity at a young age sometimes have to make dangerous decisions about coming out. Parents might expel them from the house. Peers might bully them at school. They might even face legal trouble for doing something as simple as using public bathrooms that match their gender identity. The discrimination and prejudice transgender people in particular face sets them up for failure down the line.
Though it's getting better, because of negative queer experiences in primary, secondary education, queer students are less likely to move on to higher education than their straight counterparts are. And because of that, then they typically won't have the jobs that will provide, better quality insurance or wages that will allow them to access those, things. And so we see a lot of queer homelessness, particularly around queer youth, as they've been kicked out of their homes, a variety of things there.
Furthermore, the issues that define the experiences of transgender and gender nonconforming students in elementary, middle, and high schools often persist into higher education, where they get more complicated and have higher stakes.
I mean, the only thing else I would say is that adults are the ones that make things complicated. Children don't. We are not born with language or terminology or understanding of social constructs. So we're the ones that put that in place for children, and that's where we start getting into the issues that we do.